What if I told you the empire everyone thinks a man built was actually bought and paid for by the wife he thought he could toss aside? And what if the secret she kept for 10 years was the very weapon that would tear his shiny world down? Yeah, that happened, and let me tell you, it's not just a story about betrayal, it's about what happens when you underestimate the quietest person in the room, the one you barely notice until she sets everything on fire with a single piece of paper. The night it all went to hell, Regis Singapore was dripping with wealth and ego. Crystal chandeliers tossing little diamonds of light on a crowd that just lived to be seen. There he was, Adrian Sterling, my husband, the supposed genius in the Tom Ford suit, holding court like a king, his smile so dazzling people practically lined up just to orbit around him. 10 years to the day since he launched Aura Innovations, and everyone wanted a piece of his legend. But from where I stood, half hidden behind a marble pillar, one hand resting on the curve of my belly, the champagne in my glass tasted like dust. Nobody ever noticed me at these things. I'd learned to live in the shadow, the quiet wife in a navy blue dress that felt more like a disguise, always a little out of place among all the noise and sparkle, clutching my own little secret 3 months along. And I was going to tell him tonight, hoping this child might patch up the growing cracks he never seemed to see. He called the crowd to order, voice booming, all confidence and charm, the kind of speech that makes investors salivate, talking about vision, ambition, and how Aura Innovations was about to break every ceiling in tech. I let myself hope, just for a second, that maybe this was my moment, that maybe, after everything, he'd see me, acknowledge the silent partner who sacrificed everything to help him build this empire. But instead, he paused, that movie pause, where everyone hold their breath. And with a flourish, he introduced the new CEO. He reached out his hand, not to the back row, where all the senior execs sat, but right to the front, to Isabella Rossi, the company's head of marketing, all crimson and confidence, walking up to that stage like she'd already conquered it. Their hands laced together in front of everyone. So brazen, I heard people gasp, but Adrian just smiled, his eyes all over her as he handed her my company, my life's work, and the crowd went wild. The applause so loud, I could barely hear the sound of my glass shattering at my feet. That was the moment it all snapped into place, like some sick joke finally explained the late nights. The perfume, the emotional distance, all those warning signs I tried to ignore. He wasn't just cheating, he was building a new life, right there in front of me, funded by my trust, my grandmother's legacy. See, what nobody knew, what Adrian forgot, or thought I'd never use, was that Aura Innovations was as much mine as his. 10 years ago, when he was just a broke engineer with a big dream, I put up the seed money, $500,000 on one condition. My involvement would stay secret, a silent vote of confidence in the man I loved. He promised me the world, but I just wanted him to fly, not to have to tell anyone he only made it because his wife paid for the runway. But I did one more thing, the thing he never saw coming. I had my lawyer draft a convertible note, tucked away in a bank vault clause that let me, at my discretion, take 51% control of the company if he ever broke faith. You know what I mean? Sometimes we protect ourselves in ways even we forget, until the world gives us a reason to remember. That night, standing in the ruins of my marriage, my secret safe suddenly felt less like a burden and more like a loaded gun. I left that ballroom, didn't even look back. In our penthouse, every object was a memory poisoned by the truth, and I didn't cry, couldn't. Instead, I started pulling Adrian's Seville rose suits off the hangers, sweeping his fancy watches into the trash, not because it would change anything, but because any action, felt better than standing still. I called my lawyer, Anna Sharma, sharp as broken glass and twice as dangerous, and told her, I want to retrieve my document. I want to know how fast I can take down a CEO and claim what's rightfully mine. There was this moment of silence on the phone, and then a laugh, not cruel, just delighted, like she'd been waiting her whole life for this fight. Let's do it, she said, and just like that, my war began. Adrian, of course, tried everything, flowers, texts, even sent Isabella to plead with me in some cafe, all poise and pity. Don't make this ugly, she said, like she hadn't just stolen my life, like I was the one airing dirty laundry. I told her flat out, you're sitting in my chair in my company. You didn't earn it. You were handed it by a man who had no right. I'm coming to take it back." Her mask slipped thin, and for a second I saw not the queen, but the desperate pretender, just a line item in the expense report, and a very expensive one at that. The legal fight got ugly: hacking, surveillance, all sorts of underhanded games. But Anna's forensic team dug deep and found the twist nobody saw coming. Isabella was siphoning money out of Aura into offshore accounts, criminal embezzlement, not just garden variety betrayal. Now, not only did I have the contract, I had the smoking gun. The day of the board meeting, I walked into that glass-walled room on the 50th floor, no longer the ghost but the woman in charge, bumps showing beneath a custom emerald dress. Adrian looked terrible, hair out of place, fury in his eyes, Isabella by his side, looking like she might snap. Their lawyers tried to bluff, to paint me as a jilted wife with a grudge, but Anna dropped the receipts, the convertible note, the wire transfer, the evidence of fraud, all right there on the big screen. You could hear a pin drop as the board, a bunch of old lions who'd always backed Adrian, turned on him in an instant. Mr. Chun, the oldest of the bunch, cleared his throat and asked them straight, "Is it true?" Adrian had no words. For the first time, I found my own voice calm, steady, absolute. "It's true. It ends today." I fired them both on the spot, called security, and as they were let out, Isabella lost her composure, shouting threats that rang hollow even in the marble hallway. I became interim chairwoman that day, not just seizing control, but owning the story. I stood before the whole company, big, pregnant, terrified, and told them the truth. Aura Innovations had lost its way, but we would find it again, together. And people listened because for the first time, they saw not Adrian's wife, but the founder, the one who believed first and sacrificed most. Adrian tried everything to get back in calls, threats, even his mother's phone, but I let Anna handle it all. The divorce was fast, ruthless. The evidence of cheating and complicity in fraud left him with almost nothing but his name, and not much of that. 6 months later, my son Leo was born, strong and perfect, and for all his father's faults, I saw a little of him in Leo's eyes, but more than anything, I saw hope. I turned Adrian's old office into a space of light and books and promise, the company thriving again, not because of me, but because I let others step up too. I was a leader, a mother, and finally my own person. But, life doesn't always tie itself up with a neat little bow. Adrian came back, trying to claim paternity rights, trying to claw his way into the world I'd built from scratch. He looked like a shadow of the man I'd married, his eyes hollow, and when we met in the Botanic Gardens, with Leo sleeping on my chest, he asked for one thing: a chance to be a father. My answer was cold, clear, not born of forgiveness, but of strategy. He could see Leo once a month, supervised on my terms, and if he ever broke those rules, he'd never see his son again. He agreed, tears running down his face, not for me, but for what he'd lost, what he could never regain. That's how you take your life back, brick by brick, breath by breath, turning every scar into a line in your victory song. I built this company, this family, this new world, not on the noise of men who love the sound of their own voices, but on the quiet work of belief, of sacrifice, of never backing down, even when the whole world tries to erase you. So, tell me, if you were in my shoes, would you forgive? Would you let the past in, or would you lock it out for good? Share your thoughts below. Let's get real about justice, about second chances, and about who really gets to write the ending to their own story. If you felt something from this, hit that like button, pass it on to someone who needs to hear it, and stick around, because sometimes the quietest story is the one that changes everything.